Thank you for auditing the always positive, unedited new music review show hosted by a French professor who can't, I just can't catch a break. I'm trying to catch up from vacation. I was away for 3 weeks. I'm going to be reviewing the new Rae Jepsen album, The Loveliest Time. And, it came out a couple weeks ago, and I'm trying to catch up, and I was on vacation, and I come home, and I get my kids, and my baby is sick. My wife has the same sickness as my baby. My son is sick. He has a different sickness than my wife and my baby, and my daughter has COVID. So I don't know. I'm plunging towards at least one, if not two different sicknesses. So I'm happy to get this in now. And I guess it makes sense because this is part 2 of the Loneliest Time duology. I don't know. Rae Jepsen releases an album and then releases a B-side, a sort of related album. As far as I can tell, we're not supposed to think of these as sort of rejects or as scraps or leftovers, more as a complementary piece. Because if this is scraps, then how come it's how come it's better than the main thing? My introduction to Rae Jepsen was on this channel it must have been 3-4 years ago. I got challenged to review Emotions Side B, and I didn't. That was my introduction to Rae. Besides for Call Me, maybe. And so, when I'm listening to this here, and I'm listening to this like real party album, and we're all we're all separated from each other for different reasons. So I am in sort of a loneliest time moment here. But what I like about both Loneliest Time and Loveliest Time is neither of them go for the easy emotion. It's not like The Loneliest Time was this really dark, sad album about being in COVID, and it's not like this Loveliest Time is just a purely happy post-COVID album. I think they both exist in the same emotional register of a kind of bittersweet feeling. And this is maybe a little more sweet than bitter, and the other one's maybe a little bit more bitter than sweet. But Rae Jepsen, as always, continues to show the depth and the subtlety which you don't expect from a pop star. So, I first want to say one thing about Loneliest Time. I want to talk about a movie. Y'all see Barbie movie? I saw a Barbie movie. Great movie. Loved it. I might strike while the iron's hot and do a video about the Barbie movie sometime in the next 8 months when my life is calm. But I actually liked the Barbie movie back when it was called Beach House by Rae Jepsen. Has anyone else talked about this? The song Beach House by Rae Jepsen fits entirely thematically within Barbie, to the point where I would be shocked if Gerwig and Baumbach weren't listening to Beach House when they wrote Barbie. I think if you just listen to that on the way as opposed to the original soundtrack, which is also good. But if you just listen to Beach House, tell me what you think about that in the comments. Help me fight the angry algo kitty. The algorithm kitty is mad at me because I went away. So definitely, if you like this, smash like bucket. AVAA says awesome video as always. I give a heart to every comment that includes that. Please do. But what is this album even really about? And that's maybe my main thing about this album is I'm confused. It's not like Beach House. I understood Beach House. I understood most of the songs on Loneliest Time, but this album is confusing. It feels like it is sort of a Taylor Swiftian, gee whiz, I'm super happy in this relationship, with a very Taylor Swiftian understanding that this relationship is not a forever relationship. So it feels like it's like that. It feels like it's sort of someone singing about falling in love with the wrong person. And then there's a whole bunch of it that's just about quick affairs, quick fleeting love affairs that last a couple days. So it's thematically confusing. I don't know how intentional this is. The sense that I get is that it's all sort of connected. And I'm not really into biography, so I don't know. I don't know what her whole deal is. I know that she's dating one of the producers because I read that on Genius when I was preparing for this video. But maybe it's that the guy who she's with was somebody who she thought was a shipwreck and she should stay away, and she got with him in a moment of sort of fleeting passion, but then that developed into a relationship, and she's happy with this relationship, but she knows it will only last a couple years. Okay. Well, I solved it. Okay. Maybe I'm not confused. Maybe it's complex. Because that's the thing which I think Rae Jepsen, which obviously you can't get credit for. Once you're a one-hit wonder who also makes a lot of great music, you're always going to be seen through the context of that one-hit wonder. And Call Me Maybe is an amazingly complex song with great depth that deserves way more. It gets a lot of credit, but it really deserves more credit as one of the great pop songs. But I think her in general, the more I study her music, the more I'm just reminded that there's a real complexity that you don't associate with pop stars. I guess I've said that a couple times, but hey, I don't edit, so you're just gonna have to deal with me saying that twice. You want me to say it again? Complexity. The I think the reason why I prefer Loveliest Time to Loneliest Time, probably because I just been listening to it more recently, but there's more like rhythm to it. I don't know, like the soundscape on Loneliest Time felt a lot more 80s, and this feels a little bit more sort of 70s and 90s, if that makes sense. Almost more sort of Daft Punk, house, neo-disco inspired, mixed in with a lot of interesting songs with just great rhythms. There's multiple times on this album where I just straight up said, awesome. See, that's not complex, it's a different word. Awesome. Like I would just hear something and I would write, awesome. When I was hiding at the gym from all the pestilence and plague going on in my house, I'd be there at the Y watching the Women's World Cup. All the teams I wanted to win are out, so go Spain, Australia, I don't know. Anyways, I'm sitting there, I'm watching Women's World Cup, and every once in a while I would just say, awesome. For example, the stamp from this album, my favorite song, Shy Boy. I'm a mother shy boy. Click above the banana, above the video game poster, which I will explain presently. So Shy Boy, it's probably not my favorite song on the album, but I had to pick it because it's produced by James Ford, and James Ford is like my guy. He produced that Geese album, which I loved. He produced the Shame album, and here he is with Rae Jepsen. He's sort of making the real strong case that he could be the next sort of great multi-platform, multi-genre producer. Right, so just keep your eye on James Ford. It starts off with this great funky wah sound, like disco drums, the nice gentle kind of double hi-hat, and it's a real groove. What's interesting about this song is at least the title, Shy Boy, it's all about like taking place in a club and being attracted to a shy boy. So I like to imagine this as the B-side, as the B-side to How Soon Is Now by the Smiths. You know how Soon Is Now by the Smiths. Like, that's a whole song about going to a club and being all like, oh, I'm so lonely and shy, and I want to cry, and I want to die. And here's like a love song, basically, to that shy boy. So I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's because, I've been a shy boy at times in my life. Maybe I just kind of relate to it. Maybe there's sort of like we live in a world that really prizes so-called alpha energy. Of course, alpha and beta, all that stuff isn't real. It's all made up. It doesn't exist even in the dog world. Even the dog world, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. It now exists in the human world because it's all human creation. So the idea of being very strong, commanding, and confident, which I guess is what I am most of the time, but sometimes I feel shy. It doesn't matter. The idea of really prizing and lusting after somebody whose primary characteristic is shy, the sort of beta love, I think it's great. The problem is that thematically it's just not consistent. Like, stir me up, shy boy, like what is that? And this whole thing about Midas touch, you've got the Midas touch, you can everything turn to gold or to sugar. Mind you, I'm telling you that I like this song, but maybe this is why it's on the B-side album, because like the lyrics don't make sense. What is the connection between someone who's shy and someone who can turn things into sugar? Unless it's a specific... Oh, God damn it. I keep answering my own questions. I swear to God, these are not rhetorical questions. I am asking the questions and then answering them on screen. It's not shy boy in general. This is a particular shy boy. This is somebody who she saw and nicknamed Shy Boy. And it must be the same guy. You know what? Must be the same guy. Let's just say Mr. X, okay? Whoever it is, this whole album is probably about Mr. X. And Mr. X was someone who she saw, who was shy, and that's what it is. And it turns out, after being with him, he can turn everything to gold or to sugar. Awfully specific second verse. My friends want to meet you, but they're only going to tease you because we made a bet you wouldn't come through. Nice little details. I do like that. I have had friends who have boyfriends or girlfriends, and it's sort of like they're not gonna show up. Really nice pre-bridge instrumental break. This album is chock full of instrumental breaks where you go, more please, 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 please. Carly Rae Jepsen, our mother who art in Canada, hallowed be thy maple leafs. Please give us a little more of the instrumental break. This album is full of instrumental teases, because this is this one of the saxophone songs? No, there's a couple songs on this album where they get the saxophonist out. Okay, come on out. All right, take out your saxophone. All right, great. Get all tuned up, right? Or whatever they do. All right, get your mouthpiece all set. All right, good. Okay, get ready. Here comes the song. Okay, you're done. Go home. A lot of kind of teasing here. It's a very catchy bridge, even though I didn't understand the Midas touch bit. Nice touch outro. It's all that sort of complexity that I enjoy, rhythmic complexity, lyrical complexity, perhaps confusion, perhaps lack of cohesion, perhaps just honesty. She does have that ability to make you feel like she's really talking about something real, but she does not quite have the Swiftian ability to communicate it in a way that feels universal. I'm not trying to start beef, please don't get mad at me. But that's interesting. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Opening track is Anything to Be With You, a cover of the Mr. Big song. I'm just kidding. It's not. Original song, Anything to Be With You. And this is produced by Hill and Berger, who do a bunch of this album. This feels like, okay, we need to have a pop song. We need to start off the whole album with a pop hit that sounds like it's trying to be a pop hit. Never, over. Nice Boston accent there. And then this is why I got the Mario Brothers in the back there. Because the way it's produced, first of all, this is one of those awesome songs. The production on this song is just lights out, It's got this rickety sound of like these guitars and these drums, and it sounds like they're being played on a tiny little radio. And it reminds me strongly of the vibe, of the bop, of the banger, Wooded Kingdom, off of the Super Mario Odyssey soundtrack. You might think that I'm making fun of Carly Rae Jepsen if you've never played Super Mario Odyssey, if you've never heard the Wooded Kingdom theme. You would be wrong. It's a great song, and it has that weird transistor radio in the other room feel. And I love it. I love the complexity, the way things come together here. I can't tell. This song has more cohesion lyrically. It's hard figuring out whether or not she's being desperate or whether or not she's just trying hard to stay with somebody, which I don't think you ever really know when you're in a relationship. Just such a weird, cool, junky drum sounding. The chorus has this great double voice with over, never, over, and then like the ride on the cymbal. So much great drumming on this album. It's sort of a drum-centered album. This is one of the songs where they get the saxophonist to come out and open up his case and get the reed all together and prepare and listen to it, and it's a threat. It's a joke fart of a saxophone solo. Like you just hear just burt, and then they're done. Bridge has got some nice claps, more of that dinky guitar, a really great song. And then the next song is another song which I would call awesome. This is produced by Swedish producers, Jack and Coke. Just going to take a second to appreciate how much I hate that name. Bleh. Gross. Lame. But it's a great song. Totally different than the first one. Hey, what the hell? It's like low, kind of crunchy bass, this voice and echo, a lot more 80s style synths. Lyrics are about like a shipwreck. This is what I'm talking about. Like this is sort of dangerous love. Like I saw you in the deep end, a shipwreck underwater, and I know I shouldn't want that. I'm just here for the weekend. Introduction of the weekend theme. There's a guy who she banged for a couple days. Okay, so Mr. X is a guy she banged for a couple days. I'll be more delicate. A man with which she had a passionate love affair for but 2 passages of the sun's celestial globe. So a couple-day weekend, an affair, and it seemed like a shipwreck. But then like the chorus got this pulsing 80s synth feel to it, which is really nice. And then she does a thing where she has multiple different styles of singing. The 2 that jump out to me the most are the kind of annoying Madonna / Japanese breakfasty sort of whiny stuff. And then there's this one, which is a lot more intimate. It's just like a lot more like you feel like Yassiar? Okay, sounds good. You know, like you feel really close to her and you really feel that there. I swear to God, she says, "Kiss me on the chicken." I don't know what that means. I mean, kiss me on the chicken. I, I don't know. Please tell me if you're a Jepsonian. If you're a Jepsonian scholar, please tell me what does it mean to kiss on the chicken? Kiss me. But if it was a man singing, I would get that it's a clumsy play on words. But a woman doesn't have a chickens. Almost a Daft Punk outro with like super compressed arpeggio. Like I'm not going to talk about Daft Punk a lot on this review, but they definitely feel like they're at the edges. Their production influence, especially their first album, Homework, with the sort of neo-disco compressed sounds. Then we get to the song After Last Night, produced by Rostam Batman Glee of Vampire Weekend. And I think this is awesome. I think the album starts with 3 awesome. I can't tell. I'm going back to Video Game Town. This song reminds me of a Wii menu with a jungle drum. Like just all these wild rhythms, and it breaks into like this snap chorus, and it's just totally nuts. There's like arpeggiated flute sound that's too fast, and the voice is kind of high and sort of annoying. There's this descending pre-chorus, and then just this chorus that's just, first of all, just you can't talk about the Pale Moonlight without making me think of Jack Nicholson's Joker, you know. Because Jack Nicholson's Joker says, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" And so she says, "After last night, things look different in the pale moonlight." And it's just, she's so confusing. These lyrics are so confusing. After last night, things look different in the pale moonlight. So usually when you talk about last night, you're talking about it during the day. You're not talking about it in the next day. So she's in the next night, in pale moonlight, talking about the last night. So was she thinking about last night the whole day or the morning? I don't know. In the moment I was hypnotized, you can go ahead and open your eyes. I see you. I think it's going to change my life. I'm not afraid of getting close this time. So it does feel like maybe this Mr. X relationship that she had that night, and then now she's back with him on the second night. Boy, this whole thing. I'm just working this through right now. So maybe this is a thing that all the Jepsonians know. But maybe it's almost a theme album, I think. I think you'd really just sort of see it as like this retelling of a passionate weekend affair of 2 nights, of which this is the second. I keep answering my own questions. I still don't know what it means to kiss on the chicken, okay? So you can tell me what that means. That I can't figure out. But this does seem that that's why it's the second night, that it's this heavy, and it seems like it's like this relationship that started very intense with a lot of warning signals, and that's where they are. By the way, even though I've not been able to hold my baby for the past 3 days, which is like very bad stuff. Nope, don't like it. I like holding my baby is good. Not holding my baby is bad. But I was playing this music, and she was absolutely jamming, sitting there in her little baby pit, and just kind of like that. And I was dancing, and she was dancing. A very nice moment. That was what we might call the loveliest time I've had in the last 3 days. And I think it is. I think it is awesome. And what do you know? We got another awesome. That's 4 awesome tracks right in a row with the song Aeroplanes by Berger. It's got this great drum loop, and the voice is far away and very compressed drums, almost like New Jack 90s drums. That's why I say this album feels more 70s and 90s and 80s. I won't hold you back from anything, babe. I want to give you everything you want, babe. And then, secretly, even though this album is filled with stuff that you might call weird, this is secretly the weirdest part. The way the chorus modulates and just changes. It feels totally different than the verse. And I'm now going to ruin the song for you / make the song awesome for you. Listen to the song Eternal Flame by the Bangles. Or is this burning an eternal flame? Close your eyes. Whatever that song is. I worked at a summer camp, and that was the first time I ever heard the song, and I had to sing it. This is the way I was teaching English. The way the system was teach English, we just sang that song just constantly over and over again and over again and over again. But the way that the chorus works, the way that the melody works, is very similar to Eternal Flame by Bangles. And when you listen to them back to back, you're like, what the, whoa, is Carly Rae Jepsen a Bangle? Is she a time-traveling Bangle? Hey, you might have watched other reviews of this album, but I'm the first one to ask, what does it mean to kiss on the chicken? And is she a time-traveling Bangle? Just very, very cool the way these interlocking guitars are on the second verse. The production's just great. There's an acoustic guitar bit here that sort of talks about, it's a real kind of like emotional and feels really real towards the end. This guitar, multiple voices. We're going to have to make time. We're going to have to build each other's lives. It turns out this relationship with Mr. X has turned into something more. A good gravy. I guess the first 5 tracks, Jumpin' Jehoshaphat. I guess the first 5 tracks are all awesome because Shy Boy is the next one. And then we get to Collage, which maybe Collage is... Well, what's great about Collage is that we are now in a downbeat thing. So it's got this drum fill that starts off in this groove, which reminds me strongly of Tame Impala in a nice way, kind of a soft funk groove, singing fast over a slow beat, which is a nice trick, having a slow beat and singing fast. Sort of like percussive synthesizers and sort of a sweeping synthesizer underneath. Some nice guitar work, very subtle production notes, sort of playing these guitar notes on the quarter notes at the end of the verse. A very ethereal pre-chorus with my favorite 3 words in this entire album, paralyzed in motion. That's that confusing stuff. Hey, Ms. Jepsen. That doesn't make any sense, but that's okay. It makes poetic sense, which is what's important. Seems to be a lot about, like, am I hurting somebody? Again, I don't really quite get the message. Like, did I hurt you? Did I hurt myself? I passed the future, but I ended up in bed with you. What is her relationship to Mr. X? Another great little synth solo. A great one of those, please give us more. Please give us more instrumental breaks. But great piano work here too, plonking down notes. There's so much great production happening here. What's cool is that thanks to this channel, I listen to a lot of pop music, and especially pop music as made by sort of female divas. Like it's an area that is very interesting. It's an area that I completely ignored while growing up because of straight societal, familial, and personal misogyny. Okay, so that's what I did. And now I get to appreciate it, and you really understand how important the individual artist is. Even if she's not writing all the parts of the songs or totally responsible for what it is, there's a reason that she releases only great albums with basically only great songs. It's because she is doing it. And it's nice. Next song is called Shadow, produced by Batman Lee again. A very funky drum loop, echoey synth. It's just so minimal but so well produced. A gorgeous pre-chorus about flying, sort of flying all over the place in the album here. Then there's this really unexpected change in the chorus with these really fast words. The architecture of this connection is your reflection always following me. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I'm supposed to be on Do Not Disturb, y'all. Like, don't disturb me. I'm recording a video here. It's very important. My opinions on Carly Rae Jepsen are more important than your phone call. Another 5-second post-chorus thing. This song, more than others, just has a ton of movement where you just can't predict where it's going from part to part. Next track is probably my least favorite track on the album, Psychedelic Switch. Even the title is just like, what? Psychedelic Switch? Like, okay? I don't know. Her voice is a bit thin. Don't wake me because I'm lucid dreaming, meditating on your lips. I mean, I guess it's sort of passionate, but I don't know. I do like sort of at the end how it gets it sort of has a couple false endings and it gets kind of trippy and then comes back with this chorus. And I'm going to do that thing that I do often with pop music where I'm going to tell you, I don't really care for this. I don't really care for this. No, this is what it'll be. I'll listen to the verse. I don't care for it. Hear the chorus first time. Don't really care for it. Second verse. Third verse. Second chorus. Bridge. Third chorus. Psychedelic Switch. Like, I end up getting into it because it's she's so good at producing pop songs, making pop songs, and by the time the chorus comes through, I end up liking it. So this is with Mr. X. Apparently, according to Lyric Genius, she is dating Cole Mjin, MGN, and Definitely the low light on the album. It's not terrible, but like it's got this weird like, do you think this is a good idea? I think this is a good best idea I've ever had. Or yeah, I don't know. Cool kind of plucked bass. It feels very real. I guess this is sort of they're actually dating and they're actually making music together. But again, it goes to this whole general theme of like this 2-day relationship that turned into a longer relationship, started off on this rocky way where they're not sure if it's a good idea. Interestingly, just a weird coinky-dink. Regret saying that. Weird coincidence. Quelle coincidence. The lyric is "No one is innocent." And I was watching the World Cup. It was England versus Colombia. Sadly, England won. And they were... the commentator said, "No one is innocent in set pieces." It was a very rough game. They were following each other all over the place. And it was just weird. Like, I was like listening to this music, "No one is innocent." And then like at virtually the exact same time, "No one is innocent in set pieces." And then I thought like no one is innocent in love and all that. And oh, hey saxophonist. Yes? I guess you have a Canadian accent. Hey saxophonist. Yes? That's my Canadian accent. "You got to play for us." "Okay." And he gets out the saxophone, he gets ready. "Okay, that's enough, go back home." Next song is "Come Over." A lot like the last song, it feels very connected. Nice sort of Daft Punky homework disco curling bass. And listen, there's a few things that always get me, okay? Number one, you put chocolate chips in anything, I'll eat it. Doesn't matter what it is, chocolate chips, always good. Always good. Feel free to tell me in the comments where you think you can get me on chocolate chips. I guarantee you chocolate chips make it better. That's number one. Number two, the disco claps. I don't care if it's getting jiggy with it, okay? I don't care what any song that throws in that little disco clap, I'm always there for it. Doesn't mean I love the song, but I always love the disco claps. This has sparing use of disco claps. They transfer the rhythm over to a snare, but I like it. Nice kind of downbeat bit, just a break to get you back to the very catchy chorus. "Put It to Rest" is definitely another one of the awesome ones. It's kind of arpeggiated, like piano and these brushy drums. It almost sounds like ABBA or something when the synths pop in. This is what I'm talking about, that complexity. I said it again, the complexity that's in here. I love the melody and the intimacy of her voice, and eventually like a real drum set comes in just playing super hard, and then like the piano that was in the beginning almost sounds almost incidental, almost like abstract, and then there's like bongos, and there's certain kinds of music. When I went to a camp in Wyoming when I was young, and it was a terrible place, and I was lucky not to be sexually abused. A major sexual abuser was one of my counselors. But anyways, I was abused by all the campers. It was a terrible time, but there were nice parts to it. And the best part was I had my Walkman, and I had Pink Floyd's Animals, and we would just like drive out to the places where we were going to go hiking, and just sort of like driving, listening to Animals by Pink Floyd, and watching the sagebrush go by, and watching the sort of American landscape is really beautiful. Later I would go to Europe, and I would, I don't know, listen to Song of the Siren by This Mortal Coil while looking out the window on a train going through France. Like, there's just certain music that just really goes well with landscapes and with that feeling of movement and life. And this is one of those songs. This is just awesome. Then we get to the last two tracks. Both of them are awesome. Both of them are connected. So we had the sort of like come over song, Wait, where did she talk about 2 years? 1 second. She had some song where she said 2 years, where she talked about the relationship. But I missed it in my notes. So anyway, that's the most important thing, I think, about this Mr. X narrative, because she's going to end it with this great passion. She's going to end it with this great passion and this retelling of these first 2 days with Mr. X. But at a certain point, earlier in the album, you can tell me in the comments, I just forget it somehow, she says, like, this will be good for a couple years, which is like, ouch. Like, if I were Mr. X, I'd be like, I'm out. Like, if you're positive this is not going anywhere, or, maybe it's really evolved. Maybe that's just her life. Maybe Carly and Taylor have this way of understanding that if you can't do all forever monogamy, serial monogamy is better than just misery and exploitation. I don't know. Stadium Love. It's kind of like, it's just, the reason that this is awesome, there's a kind of like very brutal synth line, very simple, played over this great sub bass drums, and there's all these things that kind of don't quite go together, and then her voice just weaves it all together. This is for the weekend lovers, the ones you'll never forget. Wishing you a speedy recovery, sliding doors, talking about this, and it seems like, and she says in Genius, this is all about like festival flirtation, so now things are even coming more into, so it's like this whole story is like about a festival lover, like some guy who she saw at Coachella or Glastonbury, or those are the only two music festivals. If you know of a third, tell me in the comments. Great kind of like quiet moment leads into her sort of shouting, "Hey boy." And I talk about this a lot, but having her initial entrance into the world be "Call Me Maybe" is so beautiful because it puts her as the girl who doesn't think she's going to get the guy, even though she's a beautiful woman with lots of talent, charisma, all that stuff. Because her introduction to the world was, "Oh, call me maybe, you're too hot for me," probably. You know, she's able to do that, and that you still always have that kind of shy, uncertain aspect, which helps her to be, like, you sort of feel like a conspirator with her while she's on these sort of search for love and lust, you know? Like, she's not like the predator who's on the prowl, who's going to take her man and the back of the neck and just and then throw him off, you know? It's more like she still feels like the Call Me Maybe person. A great, very short guitar solo, and then lets the beat ride. Normally, I don't do bonus tracks because I don't have the time, especially when everyone's all over the place. But this one's produced by Ethan Gruszka, who co-produced the Boy Genius album, which might be the best album of the year. So, hey. Let's give this some credit. Some flutes, some strings, a cool funky drum beat. It's really in keeping with the rest of the album. Fun rhythms in the post-chorus. And it's just all tied in together. It seems that Neva Ova is the only song, the first track of the album is the only song which doesn't actually fit into this neat little narrative which I have constructed on the fly. That doesn't mean it's good or bad, it's just kind of interesting. So these are my Patreons. Some of them support me because they like the work I did on Rae Jepsen. So that's pretty cool. They give me money to buy music. The thing about Rae Jepsen is like she's so damn consistent. You know? I mean, I haven't heard a bad, not even really a bad song. Even the stuff that I say is not awesome, it's not there. And just both these albums, you know? Like, they're just so good. I just want to, like, just listen to them. Okay. I have to go take at least one of my kids to at least one doctor. There's the camera.